So once again, for anyone who might be watching this as the recording version on YouTube, we are going to need a prop today if you have one. So something like either a yoga bolster or a pillow or cushion. There's something that's a few inches thick and soft that will give you some support in a few of our poses. Or if you don't have that, that's fine too. I'll cue with and without. And as usual, we'll be about an hour for our yoga practice, and then we'll have some time for meditation at the end. So feel free to stay or not for that portion of the class. So we'll begin in our seated mountain pose. So sitting slightly forward in the chair, taking a minute to just make sure to equalize the weight between the hips. The feet are about hip distance apart, resting on the floor. We're gently engaging the core to help support the spine, and then just letting the shoulders relax down the spine. And so once you've found your seated mountain pose, we'll take a few minutes to arrive before we begin. So maybe letting the eyes soften or close. And I'd invite you to maybe bring one hand over the heart and one hand resting on the belly. And from here, just settling into the rhythm of your breath, coming in and out through the nose. Feeling the rise and fall of the breath, feeling the hands move as the breath flows in and out. And bringing your focus inwards, noticing any sensations throughout your body. Noticing your feet in contact with the floor, and where your body comes in contact with the chair. The weight of the clothes on your body. The air on your skin. Just noticing what it feels like living in your body in this moment. And if you're feeling any areas of pain or sensation, sending a little kindness to those areas. Now letting your bottom hand come up to rest over your top hand. So both hands are resting over your heart. Drawing the focus into the space around your heart, noticing any emotions that are present for you today. Just noticing them without any judgment. And then gently drawing the focus up into the crown of your head, noticing what thoughts might be passing through your mind. And a reminder that it's perfectly natural for the mind to wander. And if you find yourself distracted by thoughts, you can always just gently bring the focus back to the breath, flowing in and out through the nose, rooting yourself back in the present moment. I'd invite you to give yourself permission to experience all of these feelings and thoughts fully, and to move through today's practice with a sense of curiosity and self-awareness and compassion. And when you're ready, releasing the hands, letting them rest on your thighs, letting the eyes flutter back open. And we'll warm up with our head and neck movement, and we'll change things up a little bit today. So we'll inhale here in the center, and as you exhale, dropping the right ear towards the right shoulder. And then on your next inhale, lifting the chin up. And then exhaling, drawing the chin towards the chest. And we'll flow back and forth, lifting and lowering the chin, just following the rhythm of your own breath. This is kind of similar to the warm-ups that we normally do, but just a little bit of a different stretch in the neck. Good to change things up every now and then. And then the next time you inhale, we'll lift the head back up to center. And we'll exhale, switching sides, so dropping the left ear toward the left shoulder. And then finding that flow on this side, so inhaling, lifting the chin, and exhale, lowering. Maybe noticing what it feels like on this side. Maybe this side is tighter or looser. And just letting the breath flow. And then when you're ready, releasing that movement and returning the head back to center. And we'll just roll the head from shoulder to shoulder. So just very gently inviting some movement in the neck. And if you're able to complete a full rotation, if your neck is okay with that, feel free to do that, or just keep doing these half circles. And if you've completed the full rotation, making sure to go back in the other direction. And then when you're ready, coming back to the center. And moving into the jaw, a place where we carry a lot of tension, just making some circles with the jaw. Loosening it up. Maybe letting the mouth drop open and then close. And then on an inhale, lifting the shoulders towards the ears and beginning to contract all the muscles of the face, making like a prune face. And then on your exhale, sigh it out, releasing everything. We'll do that a couple more times. Inhale, contracting. And exhale, release. And once more. Now letting the arms drop down by your sides, we'll just roll out the shoulders gently backwards. And then forward in the other direction. And then releasing and lifting the arms out in front of you. We'll begin to flex and bend the wrists. Just finding whatever range of motion feels good for you. And then holding the hands up, we'll open and close the fists. So stretching the fingers out wide and then closing them into fists. Stretching out the finger joints. Now we'll flip the palms so the palms are facing up to the ceiling. We'll inhale, bringing the tips of the fingers to touch the shoulders, and then exhale, releasing and moving back and forth on the breath. And then the next time the fingers come to the tips of the shoulders, we'll hold here and we'll send the elbows out and in. So spreading the elbows wide and then bringing them back together. And here, if you'd like to loosen up the neck a little bit more, you can lift the gaze as the arms open and then draw the chin to the chest as the elbows close. And that's just an option if it feels good. We'll do that once more. And then release, letting the arms hang by your sides, maybe giving them a little shake. And so we'll move into our breath of joy arm flow, which we've done before. So we'll inhale, bringing the arms forward halfway, so the palms are facing each other. Exhale, open the arms wide. Inhale the arms back in, and then release. So flowing on the breath, inhale, exhale, inhale, and release. And if your range of motion feels that today you can lift the arms all the way up, and then exhale, bringing them down and wide. And inhale, coming all the way up, and release. We'll do that a couple more times, using your own breath to guide your movements. So really nice and energizing flow. We'll do that once more. Letting the arms flow. And then releasing the arms all the way back down by your side. So now sending the arms out to a T position. We'll inhale here and then exhale, giving yourself a bear hug, crossing one arm over the other. We'll inhale the arms back out and then cross the opposite arm over. And we'll continue just alternating, crossing one arm over the other and then switching which arm is on top. And then the next time we come into that bear hug, we'll hold. And you can stay here in the bear hug, or if eagle arms are in your practice, you can move to that. So working the palms towards each other, getting a little bit more opening in the backs of the shoulders. And seeing if you can direct the breath into that space between the shoulders and your upper back. And one more deep breath here. Inhale and exhale. And then on your next inhale, spreading the arms back out wide, and we'll switch sides. So coming into either that bear hug on the other side or the eagle arms, crossing the forearms, working the palms towards each other. And taking a few breaths here. Again, creating space between the shoulders. Breathing into the upper back. And we'll take one more inhale and exhale here. And then we'll inhale to open the arms back up. And exhale, dropping them back down by the sides. Now bringing the hands to rest on the thighs. We're going to walk our hips forward and backwards. This is kind of a new one for us, but just something to loosen up the hips. So lifting up one hip and just walking the hips forward to the front of your chair, and then walking them backwards. And then just moving back and forth a few times, feeling those hip joints start to loosen and lubricate. And then the next time we walk forwards, we'll settle in back in our seated mountain pose, just slightly forward in the chair. And so continuing the hips, we're going to lift up the right knee. And so you can either grab underneath the knee for a little bit more support, or you can do it with no hands. And we'll just circle the right hip and the right leg to the outside. And you can use your hands to help as much as you want. If you want a little bit more, you can actually use your hands to put some pressure on the top of the knee, giving a little more resistance if that feels good, or no hands at all. And then we'll switch directions. So rolling towards the inside this time. And then we'll switch sides. So placing the right knee down, we'll pick the left knee up. And then starting those circles, outside circle, and finding those options. So using hands for support, Using the hand to put a little more resistance on the leg. And then switching directions. And then releasing back to the floor. And so scooching just up a little bit in the chair, we'll walk the feet pretty close together, maybe even touching. And we'll just butterfly the legs out, so letting the knees drop wide and then bringing them back together. So keeping those hips and inner thighs nice and loose. And releasing and walking the feet back out to about hip distance apart. And from here, we'll do a half forward fold. So taking an inhale here in the center, lengthening the spine. And then as you exhale, coming down onto the forearms, bending halfway, and maybe letting the tips of the fingers come together. And the back is still relatively flat. So we might think in this position about creating space and directing the breath towards the lower back and stretching that part of the spine. And if it's comfortable, you can either stay right here in this half fold, or you can fold all the way forward, letting the spine and the neck round over the legs. But only if that's comfortable for the spine. And then from wherever you are, using the hands to help walk you back to an upright seated position. So we'll extend now the right leg out in front of you, and your heel can rest either on the floor, or if it's comfortable for you to slightly lift the leg, you can do that as well. So from wherever you are, we'll just point and flex the right foot. And the hands can be grabbing the side of the chair if that gives you a little bit more stability. And then rolling the ankle in one direction. And then back in the other direction. And then keeping that leg either lifted or extended out in front of you. Maybe lifting the left arm out in front of you. And if that feels good, maybe letting the right arm join it. So finding a modified chair pose in the chair. So firing up through the core and the hamstrings. And don't forget to breathe. And then we'll release, letting it all come down. And we'll switch sides, so finding that little flow on the left side. So the left leg is extended and the right leg is bent. And you can either have your heel resting on the floor or lifting the leg. And we'll just point and flex the toes. Be noticing the different parts of your leg that feel the stretch as you point and flex. And then rolling the ankle in one direction. And then back in the other direction. And then holding that leg out front, maybe lifting the right arm, and then maybe the left arm, and finding some balance. Even though we're supported by the chair, we can still challenge our balance and stability. And just breathing here. Feeling the support of the floor and the chair. And when you're ready, releasing the leg and arm back to the floor. Maybe windshield wipering the legs a couple of times. And so we'll move now into our goddess pose. So we'll sit forward in the chair and we'll walk the feet out as far as you can. Doesn't have to be that far, but just so you're getting a nice stretch across the inner thighs. And the feet are turned out 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock. The weight is evenly distributed in the hips, spine is long. And our arms are in goalposts. So these are our goddess arms. And so in goddess today, we're going to do a little twisting flow. So we'll inhale here in the center. And then on our exhale, we'll twist to the right, twist the torso and the upper body to the right. Inhale back through center. And as we exhale, twisting to the left this time. And so flowing back and forth. We don't usually do twists in this particular position, so maybe just noticing how it feels. And then the next time we twist to the right side, we'll bring the left hand to the right knee, and then the right hand can come either to the hip or the back of the chair. And we'll just hold the twist for a couple of breaths. And then when you're ready, coming back up, and we'll twist back to the other side. So bringing the right hand to the left knee, and the left hand can either rest on the hip or the chair, wherever is comfortable really. And we'll breathe in the twist here. And then when you're ready, untwisting and coming back to center, and the hands can be resting wherever on the thighs is fine. And we'll do another little arm flow here. Our legs are going to stay in goddess, but if at any time you feel like you need to bring them a little closer, if it's not comfortable, then please adjust. So with the right arm, we're going to make a little basket. So kind of bending the arm as if you're holding a basket in that hand. And with the left hand, we're going to reach it up, pick the apple, and put it in the basket. And so we'll flow back and forth, inhaling as we reach up, and then exhaling as we come down. And as you reach the arm up, noticing the chest begin to open. Just the space in the chest and under the arms. We'll do that once more on this side, reaching up and then putting it in the basket and releasing the hands. And so switching sides, so now we'll make that basket with the left arm. And we'll reach the right arm up and then down into the basket. And moving back and forth. As always, letting your breath be your guide. And really stretching as much as you want as you try to reach those apples on the top branches. And once more, reaching up and then back down. And then releasing the arms. And then we'll walk the feet back into the center. And scooting just slightly backwards maybe, or wherever is comfortable. We'll just do a few hip circles in the chair. So just shifting the weight from side to side and moving the torso around, loosening up the spine. And then back in the other direction. And then coming back to seated mountain. And so now is where we're going to start to incorporate our prop, our pillow. So if you have one, grabbing that now, and we're going to just put it in our lap, hugging it up close to the belly. And we're going to do, if you don't have a pillow or blanket or cushion, then you can simply do a cat and cow stretch here. But we're going to do a forward fold over the blanket, and then we'll open the chest coming up into a cobra position. So from here, we have the hands resting over the cushion, hugging it in towards the belly. We'll take an inhale, lengthening through the spine. And then exhale, just folding, draping your body over your prop. And then on your next inhale, slightly arching the back, drawing the elbows towards your body and lifting the head and gaze. This is our cobra position. And then we'll fold back over the blanket or bolster, rounding the spine. And so we'll just move back and forth between that position, these two positions. Lengthening and arching the spine. And then once more, finding that cobra stretch. And then we'll release, rising back up to a seated position. And so now we're going to move our prop to the floor, so slightly out in front of you. And we're going to put the feet on top of the prop. So resting the heels on the prop. And the feet aren't necessarily flexed, but the toes are sort of generally pointing up towards the ceiling. So I've been searching high and low to find some kind of a downward dog modification in the chair. And so this is the closest I can find. So we'll see what we think of it. So on your next inhale, we'll lift the arms up with the palms facing forward. And then as you exhale, just hinging slightly forward, making a V shape with the body. And so we're stretching the shoulders, but also relaxing them away from the ears. They're not shrugging the shoulders upwards. Stretching through the arms and the back of the legs, the back of the body. And breathing here. And on your next inhale, coming back up. And then releasing the arms back down. Maybe giving them a little shake. And we'll do that one more time. The legs are extended, resting on the prop. We'll inhale, lifting the arms up. Palms facing forward. Then exhale, hinging forward. Making that V shape with your body. So picturing as if you were doing a downward facing dog on the floor. This is the same position. It just happened to be in the chair. And on your next inhale, rising back up. And then releasing the arms. And releasing the legs. Now clasping the hands behind the back and just opening up the chest, slightly arching. I'll turn so you can see what I'm doing. And just breathing into that openness. And when you're ready, releasing the arms. And so we're going to use this pillow or bolster once again. So I'm going to move it a little bit closer to the chair. And we'll come into a warrior sequence. So this is all a big experiment again. So if it's not working for you, just feel free to remove the prop or do something different that does feel good for you. So we're going to turn our bodies to the right in our chairs. And with the right hand, we're grabbing onto the top of the chair, the back, to give ourselves some stability. So we're going to slide the left hip so that it's slightly off the chair. So it's kind of hanging down off the chair. And then bringing the left leg backwards, resting on the ball of the foot, we'll slide the pillow underneath the knee. And again, the pillow is optional here. You can always do it without, just resting on the ball of the foot. And if you like a little bit more extension in that hip, you can move the knee backwards on your prop, and that just opens things up a little bit more. So just finding whatever position is most comfortable. And then on your next inhale, lifting the left arm up by your ears to finding that warrior one position. And taking just a few breaths here. Feeling proud through the chest. Stable in the lower body. And then from here, releasing the left arm down. And we're going to transition into warrior two. So we'll just shift the torso more towards the front. And then extend the arms so that the right arm is extending forwards and the left arm is extending backwards. And then the gaze comes out over that front arm. And breathing here. So the knee can still be resting on the prop, or if it's comfortable for you, if you have the flexibility, you can send that leg all the way out to the side. So more like the traditional warrior two that we would do in a standing yoga class. But just finding what works for you today. And we'll reverse our warrior. So bringing the back hand to the hip, flipping the front palm. And then as you inhale, lifting that front arm, arching the back slightly, lifting the gaze. And if that's not comfortable, you can always keep the arm on the chair for support as you arch the back. And releasing the arm. And then gently helping yourself release the leg, shifting both hips back onto the chair. And we'll come back to the center. And let's do a few rounds of cat and cow to loosen ourselves back up before we move to the other side. So we'll inhale here and then exhale, sliding the hands forward and rounding the spine towards the back of the chair. Inhale, back arches, gaze lifts, hands slide toward the body. And then we'll move back and forth just a few times. And then coming back to center. And we'll repeat our warrior flow on the opposite side. So turning to the left this time. And with the left hand on the back of the chair, we'll slide the right hip off the chair. And then send the leg back with the knee resting on that prop. And once again, taking just a few seconds to find the position that feels best. So you may just slide the knee back a little bit for a little bit more openness in that hip flexor. Or you can draw the knee a little bit farther forward if that's too much of a stretch. And so once you're stable, and inhaling to lift the right arm up by the ear, finding our warrior one. And breathing here, noticing the different sensations that are present. Noticing where you feel each stretch. Then we'll take one more inhale here. And then we'll exhale, releasing the right arm. We'll transition into our warrior two. So just shifting the torso towards the front, adjusting the legs if you need. And then we'll extend the arms, left arm out front, right arm behind. Sending the gaze out over that front arm, out over the tips of the fingers. Feeling centered in between the arms. And then when you're ready, we'll reverse the warrior. So bringing the right arm to the hip, flipping the front palm, and then bending backwards, opening through the chest. Feeling that openness around the heart and that stretch in the inner thigh. And the weight of your front foot pressing into the ground. And making sure you're not holding your breath here. You're breathing naturally. And when you're ready, releasing the front arm. Sliding both hips back up onto the chair. And then coming back forwards. And we're done with our props. So you can slide that off to the side so it's not in the way. And so coming back to our seated mountain, we'll come into a flowing side bend. So letting the right hand grab either onto the chair or onto the hip, whichever one is more comfortable. We'll inhale, lifting the left arm. Then exhale, bending to the right. Inhaling back to center. Exhale, bending. And just flowing with your own breath. Letting it be very fluid. So just letting the arm and the body move however they move. And then maybe the next time you bend to the side, just holding there for a few breaths, feeling the stretch along the side of your body. And then inhaling back up and exhale, releasing that arm. Just switching sides, bringing the left hand to the hip or chair. Inhaling, the right arm comes up. And exhale, bending to the left. Inhaling back up. And just flowing as you bend, as you breathe. And then maybe holding the side bend for a few breaths on this side. That stretching, that openness in the right side body. And then inhaling back up. And exhale, releasing the arm back down. So we'll come into our seated pigeon. And actually, if you do want to use the prop for this, you can. I'll demonstrate how. So having your pillow or bolster out in front of you, we'll extend the right leg, resting it on the bolster, and then rolling out onto the outer edge of the foot. You can also do this just on the floor. You don't need the bolster. So we're getting a nice gentle opening in the hip. Or if your hips are feeling a little bit more open today, you can grab the foot, crossing the right foot over the left knee, getting a little bit more intense hip opening there. And so grabbing onto the sides of the chair or your hips, we'll take an inhale to lengthen the spine, and then exhale, just hinging forward, just until you start to feel some sensation, some stretch in the outside of your right hip. And once you've found that point, just stopping and breathing there for a couple of breaths. And then on your next inhale, rising back up, and then releasing the foot. And we'll switch sides. So again, using the bolster, you can just simply rest the foot on the bolster and then roll out onto the edge of the foot. So getting that opening in the hip, or picking up the foot and crossing it over the opposite knee. So finding whichever one feels better. It might be different on either side. And then bringing the hands either to the hips or the chair. We'll inhale to lengthen, then exhale, hinging forward, stopping when you feel that stretch in the outside of the hip. And breathing into it wherever you are. And then on your next inhale, rising back up to seated, and then releasing the foot. And so recentering in our seated mountain, we'll just do a couple of twists before our final meditation time. So crossing the left hand over to the right knee, and then bringing the right hand either to the hip or the back of the chair. Just gently use that left hand to guide yourself into a twist to the right. Letting the breath flow here. Feeling it massage the internal organs. Using the core muscles to support the spine. And then we'll release and switch sides. So bringing the right hand to the left knee and then twisting to the left. And then when you're ready, untwisting, coming back to center. And this is the time when we're at the end of our physical practice. So I have about a 10-minute guided meditation. So if you need to hop off at this time, that's fine. If you'd like to stay, I would invite you to find a comfortable seat. Maybe sitting back in a chair, maybe even resting your feet up onto your prop. Just finding a nice, comfortable position where you can relax for the next few moments. And once you've found that position, finding stillness. Maybe once again, letting the eyes soften or close. And bringing your focus inwards. Becoming aware of the breath flowing in and out through the nose. And just observing the breath and letting it be just as it is. Without forcing anything, begin to equalize your breath so that the inhales and exhales are about the same length. If it's helpful, you might want to count. So maybe you inhale for a count of 4, and then exhale for a count of 4, or whatever number resonates with you today. And now gradually begin to extend the exhale for a couple of counts longer than the inhale. So again, if you're counting, maybe inhaling for a count of 4 and exhaling for a count of 6. Extending the exhale helps calm the mind and the body, promoting feelings of relaxation. And now letting go of that breathing practice, returning back to the natural rhythm of your breath. I'm going to guide you through a short practice adapted from Janice Quirt, who works for Yoga International. In your mind, imagine yourself standing in a lush green field at the head of a trail that winds a path into a forest. See yourself stepping onto the trail, beginning to walk into the forest. As you move down the path, you notice the sun kissing your face. Maybe you hear the birds in the trees. You smell the scent of flowers blooming and the fresh air just becoming a little warmer as winter begins to give way to spring. The light breeze gently ruffles your hair. You feel a deep sense of peace and connection to nature and all of your surroundings. As you walk farther into the forest, you begin to hear the sound of rushing water. And up ahead, you see the sunlight glinting off the water, and your path takes you in that direction. You come to the bank of a babbling brook. The water cascades over rocks, revealing the sandy bottom beneath. You sit and rest for a while, taking off your shoes and socks. You let your toes and feet dip into the cool water, noticing how good it feels on your hot and tired feet. You become aware of the many different colors of the wildflowers and grass growing around you. You observe how the water has worn the river rocks smooth. You can smell the fresh water intermingled with the smell of the grass and the wild flowers that surround you. From where you sit, you notice that the middle of the brook is where the water flows fastest, obscuring the bottom and anything else in the river. But by the sides of the bank are protected pools where the water is still, and you can see the clear contents all the way to the bottom. Sand, the frogs, and the fish that live there. We can think of these still pools as similar to our minds when we're meditating. Slowing down and stilling the mind allows us to examine what it contains. Noticing what it reveals and thinking about it, reflecting without judgment. The fast-moving water is like our minds at other times when our thoughts move so quickly that we can't see what lies beneath. We can't sit with our emotions when our thoughts are moving like that, nor can we be mindful of them. Turning your head, you look upstream and see all the water that will soon flow past you, just like all the breaths you still will take. Experiences yet to be had, days yet to be lived, And as you look downstream, you'll see the water that has already flowed by this spot, similar to all the breaths you've already taken, memories already experienced, days that have been lived. Just as you cannot control the water that flows upstream and past you, you also cannot call back the water that has already passed. All you can do is live in the present moment, noticing what it holds. You can't live in the past, though sometimes we might dwell on it. And you can't speed up the future, though often we might try to control or manipulate it. But we can embrace the scene just in front of us. The water and the sensations that appear at your particular point on the riverbank. Noticing and appreciating these moments for what they offer. Taking in one more breath of the fresh river air, you put back on your shoes and socks. Stand up and head back down the path the way that you came. As you head back through the forest, you notice the play of light piercing through the forest canopy. Observe the different shades of green in the pine needles, the leaves, the moss growing on rocks and trees. You notice the texture of different rocks, leaves, and bark under your fingers. And now you're back at the trailhead, and you step back into the field of your daily life. Notice how mindful you were in the transitions from field to forest to brook and back again. And resolve to be that aware in your everyday transition. Take a few moments in the field. Begin bringing awareness back into your body. And wiggling fingers and toes. Moving hands and feet gently, mindfully. Knowing that you can return to the river or the forest in your mind at any time you need to drop into feelings of peace, tranquility, and comfort. And when you're ready to come out of the meditation, beginning to expand your focus to the space around you. Maybe once again bringing one hand over your heart and letting your other hand rest on top of it. Coming back to where we began. Maybe noticing your emotions in this moment and observing any changes from when we started. And take a moment to thank yourself for taking this time to practice yoga today. And maybe sending a silent thanks out to others in our virtual community who might be practicing, for sharing this time together. And taking one more deep breath in with gratitude. As we bow forward, namaste.